I'm Randall Kleiser. I started out as a feature director doing movies like Grease, Blue Lagoon, White Fang, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, Getting It Right, lots of other ones. And then my brother, who is a visual effects supervisor, showed me the Oculus Rift about 3 or 4 years ago, and I thought, wow, this is a new way of making films. And so I yanked an old script out of my trunk that I wrote in college and adapted it to this new medium, and and I called my friend Tana Frederick, who is an actress, and I asked her to put together a cast for me, and we shot a pilot, which went to Sundance, was very well received, and then Nokia gave us their wonderful Ozo camera to shoot 12 more episodes, and that's what we did we tried to, it's a sci-fi project, and we tried to cast it with people who had done sci-fi movies, like Carl Weathers from Predator, and Bruce Davison from X-Men, and Veronica Cartwright from Alien. So we had this really cool cast, and it's a sci-fi project, and we just finished the 12 episodes after 9 days of shooting and 3 years of post. And so we've got it finished now, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it.
Larry?
I'm Larry Kazanoff. As a head of production at a studio, or as a producer, I've done movies like Platoon and Dirty Dancing, Terminator 2, True Lies, and Mortal Kombat. Animated movies like Lego, The Adventures of Clutch Powers, and Lego Star Wars, and theme park rides like Marvel Superheroes 4D and Star Trek The Borg Adventure. I think the future, and what we're really excited about of the entertainment business, is the world. I think that world markets are coming online at an extraordinary rate. The type of movies I just reeled off 10 years ago would do 70% of their business in the US. Today those movies do 28% of their business in the US, but the absolute numbers are rising. So the opportunity to make world appeal movies, I think, is fantastic. I think it's a great opportunity. When people bemoan the future of the entertainment business, I feel the opposite. Technology allows us to make movies using talent all over the world, like the Microsoft Cloud we use, and to distribute these same movies. So we're working on world appeal movies. We have 2 projects in India, 1 in Nepal, 2 in China. We would also like them to become franchises, which is a much ballyhooed word, but we've been fortunate with things like Mortal Kombat and others in doing that. So to me, and what we're doing is world appeal movies that can become franchises. We're in the middle of a bunch of them, and I think it's exciting as hell.
Mr. Burke?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And by the way, I saw Randall's 4 episodes of Randall's series. Brilliant. But I think the best thing about it is the script you wrote when you were in high school, because it was great. Anyway, I'm Michael Burke. I think I'm a producer basically to protect myself as a writer. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to produce everything I've written, and write most of what I've produced, except for Soul Surfer, which was an exception. I think the thing for me in terms of this transition of the world is as a creator, I just can't stop. I can't rest on my laurels, you know. I mean, Baywatch, I created the series Baywatch, and when everybody said it would fail, it could never happen, it became the Guinness Book of World Records holder is the most watched TV series in history. And 30 years later, we're still doing Baywatch stuff. So it occurred to me, what's the next evolution? We did the series, we did the movie. It's Baywatch VR. So we are actively pursuing...
I don't know. You heard it here first, and I just don't know what to do with that.
You know?
Although you're responsible for David Hasselhoff in Germany, but that's beside it.
And actually what we'll do is we'll cast new people in these VR experiences and then spin it off to a series. But the thing is, creatively, it's so exciting with the breakthroughs that are happening, but because there's no barriers for anyone. Anybody with talent can get on the internet, do something creative, get a show up there. If you can do it in VR, all the better. And I think the opportunities are incredible if the creative ideas can sustain it. So that's
fantastic. Last but not least, and, I feel like I should just do a shameless book plug. Oh, sorry.
No,
you're-
I'll plug it nonstop.
Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Danny Zucker. I'm just a comedy writer. These guys are, I with an inferiority. I mean, I've watched all your movies. That's what I can say. I write jokes for a living. I've worked on a lot of shows, like the Roseanne, Just Shoot Me, Evening Shade, and I've never had a job longer than 2 years up until Modern Family, which I am one of the executive producers of, and have been there. This is our 10th season, which is the longest I've ever had a job. And I am terrified of technology. No, I love technology, and we use it all. Just a quick little aside about where it falls in the world of comedy. But Modern Family came about 10 years ago just as Twitter was really coming up. And it was the first show I'd ever worked on where we could live watch a reaction across, we called it Google Mirth, where we could watch which jokes we would have. And, if they quoted our joke, it was always a point of pride. And my claim to fame, apart from that, what would be on my tombstone, is I got into a very long, sustained Twitter war with the worst president in the history of the country. And I've commemorated it in a book and donating it all to charity. So that's the thing you've seen there. So thank you.
All right. So there you go. So what we have here is a bunch of folks that I would like to say have done traditional media. But I think as we've all started poking at this is like, what the heck is that, right? And what we've taken is the ability to tell stories, and we're just constantly adapting it to the next new thing. But it used to be we distributed television through that shiny little box in the living room, and then we distributed films through that big thing in the theaters. Now that seems to be pulled all apart. And so for each of you, as you're dealing with these new distribution methods, whether it's over the top, completely digital distribution. I was talking to a colleague of mine in Southeast Asia. The concept of theaters and TV is a dying artifact. It is all, accessed through one of these devices, but it's still content and still entertainment. So how have you seen affecting some of the things you're doing these days by this new distribution?
Well, one of the things, when you're directing a project, you have to think about the size of the screen, and it's impossible to figure that out because some people are looking at it like here, and some people are looking at it on a giant screen. So in terms of directing, it's really hard to get your head around how to frame something.
I think the distribution opportunities are extraordinary. We have a television channel called Black Belt TV, which is all martial arts. It's in 68 countries, and we're switching it now into an SVOD or paid streaming service. And one of the reasons we're doing that is because if you own a cable TV channel, all you're doing is negotiating with cable TV operators around the world. You never really touch your audience. But now, the technology we're using from Microsoft allows us to get to anyone, anywhere in the world for the same delivery cost. So in other words, a subscriber in Bangladesh is no more or less valuable than a subscriber in Beverly Hills, and no harder or easier to get to. It's the complete democratization of the audience. So we no longer are looking for everyone, we're looking for simply the best group and the best audience for our stuff, and we can get Black Belt TV now to anyone in the world who has one of those phones or any device at all for the same cost. So everyone everywhere is just as valuable to us. I think it's extraordinary.
It's hard because for me it's always about the creativity. It's about whatever the story is you're telling and the characters you're presenting. I think the advantage today is if you can create a memorable character. I mean, from an animated character to an outrageous character, that can take off. You can make anything, either the plot that you're doing or whatever it is, into a business. If you get enough eyeballs and people are interested in that, it's a lifestyle. Whatever the movie you're telling is a lifestyle. You could be doing a poker movie, the people watching it play poker. If it's suspense, you kind of know what those people are into, and then you use the analytics of the category that the viewer is watching, and then you present them, especially online, with opportunities to spend money in their lifestyle category that they're into. You know, they can, if you're online, they can book trips, they can have socially interact with the people they just saw in your video, they can look at schedules, get books, you know, there's a whole opportunity once you can create anything that attracts people's attention on any platform, but today you can really exploit it. You know, there's apps for everything. You want a store on your site to sell the kind of lifestyle thing. I mean, I started Weed TV in Las Vegas. We got into the marijuana business, and we've got a lifestyle categories of people that are into medical marijuana. So we can show them videos and shows about that, and then direct them to places near them where they can buy their meds.
We should hang out later, if you, I don't know.
Yeah, and, you know, and using media to drive it with Weed TV. So it's like, I wouldn't do just a creative project if it didn't lead to some kind of bigger business opportunity.
You know, writer, producer,
How would you remember?
weed seller. That's awesome.
I guess my favorite thing about the whole new media thing is, I think for a long time, particularly in television, we sold short stories or short films. And with the advent, I mean, you saw this happening with DVDs, but it really is now with streaming. It's the novelization of storytelling, which I really like. I mean, I love these. Modern Family, it's these complete episodes. You can come in anywhere and see it. But there is something for me as a consumer and as a writer as well, where I love the idea of doing a continuing story. I mean, it's the one thing, it's interesting because it's the one thing TV always did better than movies, which was because you have to introduce a character in a movie that in those first, 20 minutes, and then put them on an adventure and then say goodbye to them. And in television, you get to know people, and you can have a show like Breaking Bad, or you can have, comedies that can move through the world. Like, I'm obsessed with BoJack Horseman on Netflix, and just watching how they can tell a story over the year, and you can consume it like a book. And I don't know, creatively, and maybe it's because I've been doing these 22-minute morality plays for 30 years, and some of them have been great, and some of them have been stacked with Pamela Anderson. No offense, I worked with her too, but she was great, but not on Common. On the show, no, on Stacked.
Stacked.
Yeah, I know. We were robbed at a great award show. Yeah, do you get it? She was working at a bookstore. It was called Stacked.
Yeah.
But so it is fun though to, I know I'm currently out pitching projects, and all of them have a serialized quality to them, and to see that in comedy it's fun.
I think we keep hitting on something through the theme line here, which is coming up with great IP and seeing how you can extend it. It's no longer saying, hey, this is a movie, or hey, this is a film, or hey, frankly, even a VR project. It's more, this is an interesting IP. What can I do with it?
Yeah.
Well, it was movies. I mean, we had a project with Scott Eastwood attached, and with Malpaso. Great story. Couldn't set it up as a movie. Finally, he said, limited series. That's the world. That's where it's evolved. And set it up as a limited series. I mean, it's like movies, the business model of movies isn't great anymore.
So, Modern Family, you had an episode that, and I forget the name of the episode, but did an interesting thing where you really leaned into the mobile world. Like, it was shot sometimes with cell phones, but it was that whole mom checking in from the airport, text.
Yeah, it was called Connection Lost, and it came from it was an episode Steve Levitan, one of the co-creators, co-wrote, and the whole thing was actually shot on iPhones. We shot the entire episode, and the entire story was she's waiting in an airport, and we shot the whole show took place on a computer screen of her FaceTiming with her kids, and this was sort of based on all of us on the show. We draw from our lives. I've definitely, with my own children, have had moments when they would do something exceptionally stupid, and they would say, "Don't put that in the show." And then I was like, "Oh, do you like your house?" And then they're like, "Yes, we do like our house, Dad." But with him, he was having this long conversation when he was in the airport with both of his daughters, and we were able to play out a whole episode that I think was compelling. I mean, it had a great again, it all starts with what the story is. You can always tell when someone's just kind of going for the gimmick, and it's not serving the story, but if the story serves it, it's great. And we wrote an episode, we wanted to do an episode in the first season. I think we were vilified for it a little bit, but it was the idea, because a bunch of us are tech heads, and we like to be the first to get things and have waited in the line for the new iPhone, and it was just before the iPad came out, and we knew the iPad was going to come out by the time the episode aired. And we actually went to Apple and said, hey, it's going to work. I know you keep all this stuff top secret. And we held an iPad before anybody held an iPad, and it was really amazing to have all of the Apple security people around it and letting us. This is what amazed us at the time. And I talk about this like a caveman would talk about seeing an airplane. But there was an app on it that was a birthday cake, and if you blew on the screen, the candle went out. And I'm sorry, but that still seems like magic to me. So, yeah.
We'll explain that later.
Okay, thanks.
So, Larry, you and I have had this conversation before, but for you, technology is the backdrop to getting the job done. And you intimated earlier, talked about doing a worldwide projects. And you've really leaned into embracing and like eliminating data centers and things like that. So, the sort of geeky underlying part of getting your job done is something you've really embraced to getting your job done.
Yeah, I think the audience doesn't care about that. That's our problem. But I think the opportunity is extraordinary because he's referring to the fact that we use Microsoft data centers, the Microsoft cloud, to not only hire people all over the world who work on our movies and TV shows and animated TV shows. We're doing one in Nepal now, it's a co-production between Nepal and us in LA. But if you're working on franchises, which we do, and a lot of our movies have a digital component to them, you have an asset. And when you have that asset, if you really want to exploit it, you take that asset and you say, okay, now we have a project that's about to be a movie. We already have an animated series set up based on the movie. We'll take the asset from the visual effects of the movie and comport it right over to the animated series and right over to everything else. And we can do that all seamlessly now through technology. So technology is extraordinarily helping us to make these things and to distribute these things and to turn them into franchises. Again, the audience doesn't care, but from our point of view, it's not only economical, you can get the best creators around the world, and if you're doing what we're doing, which is making world appeal movies, you might want to hire people from around the world to do it, and this allows us to do it seamlessly.
Randall, it gone from the film to the VR side of things. What about this is embracing to you? What are you excited about that said, why do you want to go to this medium?
Well, I think it's
especially because you can't determine size of screen anymore.
Yeah, right. VR is like working in IMAX because it's even bigger than IMAX. When you're wearing the goggles, you're inside the movie. I feel like I'm back in film school, and there's no rules, and we're making them up as we go, and experimenting and trying new things, and figuring out how do you do a transition, what's the best way to do it, how do you frame something when there's no frame. The way you do that is where you put the camera creates the frame, and it's just all new and fun, and that's why I'm excited about it.
Well, speaking of excitement, okay, what are you guys excited about? You see, we've got VR to AR, we got Snapchat, trying to convince everybody now we're going to go back to 1x1 video. What are the things that you're excited about that are coming out now to play with, to just move that IP forward, to move that story?
I have mixed emotions.
Really?
I do, because with
Share your emotions.
With VR, it's just more isolation of individuals not interacting with one another, but shutting themselves off to the world. And yes, we can create great, entertainment to do that, to influence them to do that. But, we were talking earlier about domes or location-based VR versus headset VR. And we're, debating maybe the business model isn't as good, but at least it gets people with shared experiences in the same place where they can interact. So, I'd like to try to I'm excited about the business end of it. I've been through, I sold my first movie to CBS when I was 12 years old, and I've literally been doing this ever since.
Going downhill ever since.
And
It was the heyday.
And it's, I did Roger Corman movies, just the whole thing. We've all done this for a long time, but I'm still enthusiastic. Even though it's harder to get a movie made or it's harder to get a series on the air, there's still more opportunities, to be creative or work with creative people. I mean, I just love meeting other creative people and helping them get their projects together. And if that ends up as a business relationship, great. But, I think there's a lot to be enthusiastic about, but I think it's very, very important that we all see the big picture of what's happening, like with this guy.
Yeah.
That we're not
Available-
shutting ourselves off.
Available at HeStartedIt.com.
Shameless plug.
Can I answer that question for a sec? What are we
No,
excited
Larry.
about? So, we talk about technology, and I've been fortunate. We work with some of the best technology in the world. We've made a lot of technological breakthroughs. We do VR stuff. We work with Microsoft. The thing I am most excited about are movies. I think everyone is giving movies a bad name. Everyone is scared of it. I think with this opportunity of other countries, I think movies are great. I think they are the biggest and most impactful branding events for entertainment in the world. You can have a hit movie that's instantaneously distributed around the world, that instantaneously creates a franchise. I think as everyone is running around, I love all this stuff, I do it, VR, AR, streaming, blah, blah, blah. Great movies is what I find so exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the goal, but it's hard to get movies made, and it's hard to, so basically, I think those things that could be movies, you pursue the movie, but if you can't, you don't just say, throw it away, you then find other, ways to use it, but it's always...
One of the things about the Dome experience that you were mentioning, the Producers Guild showed one of our episodes on the planetarium at Griffith Park, and it was amazing to see how VR works in a Dome setting. Yeah.
Oh, I just have to give you kudos. Listen to this. So he's doing a 360 movie with the camera being the point of view of this woman who's been frozen and woken up, and her family, everybody's always looking at her. He has to direct it. He has to see the performances. How's he going to do it? He's the one pushing her in the wheelchair. Every shot, so you're in VR, and I turn around, I look around, and there's a guy, I'm seeing his chin, it's Randall, pushing the wheelchair. And then in the very last climactic scene, where all the drama's happening, I turned around to see where Randall was, I turned around, and he was crouching, kneeling, like trying to hide behind the wheelchair. But it was brilliant.
Well, hopefully in the future you'll be able to put a headset on and watch what the actors are doing, but right now it's very hard to do it.
I know, but it was very creative.
So let me get this straight. The director was pushing the actor around.
Yeah, that was, I finally got to be a dolly grip. I always wanted to be a dolly grip.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got that right. No, and to your point, and I think you mentioned the VR being isolationist. You said you had to crouch behind the wheelchair. A good producer friend of mine once called it stacking. Find the largest member on the set, put them in front, and stack all the cast members behind them, so you only have to roto one person out. But what's interesting is we're moving through this messy period of time, right? Like the thing we call VR today is clunky, it's ergonomically painful, it's in some cases the isolationist aspect. But what's interesting is all of these things are being pushed through. Like, we got to get it lighter. You see the, more and more efforts around how do we put multiple people into an environment, whether it's a dome or sharing those experiences. And even from production techniques, where, getting to the point, even in, feature-length productions, we look at things where we're enabling actors to see the virtual environment that they're acting in. Getting past that, please act to the green tennis ball, and have emotional moments with a green tennis ball, and trying to get past that moment. So, go for it. You had something. You were leaning in.
No, because I'm not a technical person and am here probably by accident, but my favorite thing about all of this stuff, I know you're talking about the bigger things, I just recall when I was first starting out how many gatekeepers there were in terms of the networks, and in terms of, if I wanted to say, shoot my own pilot, it would have cost me, just on equipment alone, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've always, one of the turning point for me was, I don't know if you know the story of the Always Sunny in Philadelphia guys, but they made a short film. They couldn't get it sold anywhere. They starred in it. They took it to FX. I mean, they made this thing for $10,000 and then said, we'll take no money first season. One of the stars of that, Rob McElhenney, was actually, the first season was waiting tables as it was airing. He'd watch it at the restaurant. And these are things that couldn't be done, this idea of making it yourself. And the thing that makes me excited, and only because they've been the Goliath I've been up against for 30 years, is the kind of the stranglehold that the networks have had on creativity and on doing these things. And I have pilots that were dead to the big four networks that I'm recycling and rewriting for streaming or for other platforms, and it's great because I'm pretty lazy, and so it's already written. So
Well, I mean, Randall got something out of his trunk, for God's sake.
I know. I'm gonna check my trunk. I wasn't that good, and I was smoking weed with this guy in high school, but I want to check it out.
It's like science fiction is coming true, is really what it is. I mean, you're right. VR is, at some point in time, they'll be looking back and saying how primitive that was. And when you talk about traditional, I mean, this is the early stages of this stuff. But we probably, just like Dick Tracy, predicted the radio watches and all that incredible stuff. There's, science fiction, it would take the logical extension of where we're at today. And yes, people will have implanted, I think they already have chips. Right, in some country, Sweden, they implant people with chips so that they can open doors.
And in Berlin, they use them to get into nightclubs, but that's a different story.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Not terrifying at all. It's going to be fine.
That's why we need comedy.
Yes.
That's why we need escape. That's why we need entertainment.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. I mean, look at the Frank Capra movies, in the Depression. So that's our job. Our job is to give society an escape on one hand, and then educate them on the other.
Randall?
Yeah, Ray Bradbury predicted the whole holodeck thing in one of his stories back in the 50s.
I know.
And, everything that all these writers are all coming true, exactly what you said, yeah.
So we could continue on like this probably for the rest of time, but we're not always allowed to. But one of the things that I always make sure we do when we get into panels like this is there's a bunch of folks out there that may have questions, thoughts, ponderings. Anybody have a question, a thought? Oh, there's a lady over there.
I do have a thought, and Randall, I know your work, thank you very much, and Mr. Cooper, you're a great writer. I have a question for Larry Kazanoff, and you're not going to like it, Larry.
Welcome to my life.
How relevant do you think you are today? As a woman, I'm going to sit here and I say, I don't go to the movies because of you and what you're in. I think you're executive of production. I'm sitting here as a female director. I had a film that was 60 days in cinemas that was critically acclaimed. Not one studio knocked on my door. It's because of, I hate to say it.
How is that my fault?
I'm not saying it's your fault.
Oh.
I'm saying I'm not going to the movies because of films like Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
And you're saying very clearly you don't care who your audience is because your audience is worldwide.
Can I stop you for a second? I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying we now can find our best audience anywhere in the world, and we don't have to bother the audience who perhaps is not interested.
Okay, so are you going to bother anything in your position, bother the audience with anything that we are interested in?
Who?
Women?
Women?
I am going to have this conversation.
Most of my movies, I think, are probably geared to 18 to 34-year-old guys, but I haven't announced it yet, but I am doing 2 movies that I think will be hugely appealing to women simply because I fell in love with them and I think they fall into the scope of what I said, which are world appeal movies that can become franchises. And I think you forgot that the first movie I was ever really involved in was called Dirty Dancing.
Right.
I think women like that one. But here's the thing. Let's say I don't have that. Let's say I don't have it, or any of us don't have that. So what? The point now is we don't need 7 billion people to watch our movies. There are, for example, I told you I like movies that appeal to 18 to 34-year-old guys. Often, not always. There are 1 billion of them in the world. If my Black Belt TV or my next Mortal Kombat movie or my next co-production in India appeals to a fraction of that, that's the point is, you can now segment the audience, so you can find exactly your perfect audience. I can find my audience, you can find your audience.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with you, but here we have a case, and I know this, the panel has just fallen together this way, I get that. But the fact is, the overwhelming majority of studio heads are still men, and I am bringing this up here because I know that there's women in this audience who will be sitting here knowing that this is the case, and no one's going to say anything, so I am going to say something. You are one of several studio heads who is not making even close to a majority of films in the female audience, nor allowing female directors into the
Oh, no, we're losing Michael.
See what you've done now?
I'm giving my seat to my wife, who's a brilliant producer, a woman. I want her to be able to comment on this stuff.
I feel like I should be controlling something.
Can I answer?
Fuck it.
I gotta answer you one second. First of all, I'm not a studio head, I'm a producer. But second, I have been a studio head, but I'm not now. Second of all, I've hired lots of female directors, but I never thought of it that way, and I still don't. My writing partner and the one who show runs our Mortal Kombat animated series is a woman, but I never think of it that way. I think only of the most talented people anywhere in the world, regardless of their race, their gender, where they're from, their age, that's it.
The statistics show otherwise, and that's great.
Yeah, but I'm not a statistic, and you should talk to me about me and this guy about this guy, and say something.
Hi, sorry, I will be gone quickly, I
Tough crowd.
promise. My husband put me on. I'm just saying, I've known Larry
Yeah.
for a while, and he has the utmost integrity. He's a wonderful producer. We're on a board of Stop Poaching Now, where we empower women in villages to protect their sons from becoming poachers, to get education. We fund scholarship programs, and we do a lot. So this man works with me on Stop Poaching Now, and I'm very proud to have him as part of our team.
Thank you.
So, as are the other women on our board who are producers.
And that's lovely, and I actually also founded a charity.
What?
When my hometown was destroyed by earthquakes, and I had a lot of wonderful people on my board as well. I don't think it can be blind to you, with all due respect, that the statistics of female directors is absolutely appalling in this country. And will you personally take the chart, be one of the men who will say, I will make my eyes open to try and help women through the door as directors?
But I've been hiring female directors for years.
I have so many girlfriends that are female directors. I applaud you for doing your movie. Why you'd want to go to any studio, I don't know. I wouldn't, personally. Because unless you have a very valuable IP, you have a franchise, a tentpole movie, it's really a waste of time. And my girlfriends are executives at Paramount and Warner Brothers, and if you want to get good distribution for your movie, talk to me, that's also what I do. And it's a great time for women. It's a great time. My girlfriend also just joined a top management company. She created the tax shelter deals when foreign films first happened. She's brilliant. She's now running this top management company. And when I'm asking her for director suggestions, she said, Michelle, you have to go with a female director, and the younger the better, and you have to have content that is female-friendly, that crosses borders. That's what I'm selling personally as a woman. My teams are all women. I didn't design it like that. I just happen to think they're appropriate for the project I'm doing. On the other hand, I have a tentpole movie. My entire team is male, except for me, because they're the right team for that project. So I think as a female director, I think you have an exciting future. And please don't have this attitude against Larry. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing.
Hold on.
So please continue your great work and doing your message. And I promise you will be heard by those of us that care about good stories. Congratulations.
I'm going to call on other people, please. However, I just want to say, and I think Danny said it down there, and Larry said it, and several other folks, and you've now joined us, thank you, is the key now is
Doing great.
your voice can be heard now because you do not have to care about the big four broadcasters. You don't have to care about the cinema distribution system that frankly was very limiting to a very small few group of people. The night, but I would like to move on.
Yeah.
You ma'am?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Rosa, and I started my own studio recently with 3 business partners. We currently have web series. I have an award-winning short film that's helped me develop a feature. I also have a comedy short series. I'm standing up here to say that I'm developing all kinds of content. It's very diverse and inclusive, and you can do it. I have near 20 years in physical production. I formerly was a production sound mixer in IATSE, where we have less than 7% women. I am part of a minority who has been successful, and there are career pathways for women. You can do it. It doesn't matter your gender. It matters you learning the skill set that's applicable to your business. And your job description grows as you grow in the love of doing this business, and that's what people are attracted to. Not your gender or anything else. If you love this business, you get out and you do the work. And so I'm very fortunate to have that work ethic. And I believe if you have that work ethic, nothing else really
That's
matters.
beautiful. I've been 20 years already myself. Thank you very much.
All right, now I'd like to go to questions. You, sir?
Thank you. My question is more about a two-part question. One is how you guys are adopting new technologies into your thing, like second screen technologies. So the big movies are, the problem that they have is they have a closed-in audience. They don't have an open-end audience. TV and broadcasting has an open-end audience that can involve different technologies and involve people. We do second screen technology and stuff like that. So first part of the question is, what are you doing? What are the movies doing to enhance their connection to their audience via technology like second screen technology? And then how are you guys competing with the big studios? Like we have a network, our own small network. We're a small company, but we have a network that broadcasts on Apple TV, Amazon, Roku, DirecTV, and all the big networks. And we're small little productions, which are all women-based. We have a TV network, and a lot of women-based things. Oldfield, which is owned by Ben Holyfield's sister, and stuff like that. So how are you guys competing in that market too?
Good. Actually, I think I was going to come back to you, Larry, but I was thinking about, when I think about movies and second screen technology, what I think is competing with movies isn't about necessarily adding more technology, it's finding the right audience with it.
Yeah, again, there's something, I don't even know the expression, micro-targeting. It just means the technology allows you to find your best audience anywhere. It's just an extension of what direct marketing has been doing for years. So I think the opportunity is to think of the world as your audience and find the best customers, your best audience there using technology or not, and it grows. Look what I said, 28% of movies business is done in the US now, but the absolute numbers are rising. So I think the simple answer is use incredibly sophisticated micro-targeting to find the people who want to watch your movie, and then use a bunch of available delivery systems to show it to them.
I also think the
A man from the audience.
second screen is VR. I think feature films are going to have people like this gentleman here, who has worked on several feature films shooting VR currently with the film shooting.
Second screen
Use of
technology,
marketing and promotion.
second screen technology is not necessarily VR per se. It can be, but it's more like the Sons of Anarchy. When they did their TV show, you could follow along an iPad, and in the first season they adopted the second screen technology. They sold $3.4 million of jewelry, and they sold 150,000 sunglasses that the main character was wearing.
I had to think about the jewelry part for a second, but now I get it.
The mother ordered
Yeah, no, it just took me a second. I was trying to, I was like, jewelry, son of anarchy? Doesn't make sense. Here's the thing, and I've done a lot of second screen technology. I've done a lot of, all the various immersive goo, if you will. What I find is that sometimes people tend to think of these technologies as, how do I help this save something? As opposed to, how does this make sense to add to what I'm doing? So I've seen a lot of second screen attempts with films that I think were absolutely stupid. They were let's give some reason for people to go into a theater, as opposed to, gee, this makes sense, they may want to do that. Now, I've done any number of voting apps as second screen. I'm here to tell you, a lot of cases, second screen technology doesn't make much sense. It's because we couldn't do first screen interactivity, right? If you really said to somebody, I want to give you the power to vote, please pull out your cell phone and click on something. Hey, how you doing? As opposed to just pull up the remote and vote. But we had to do that because the nice thing is that everybody has one of these. The connectivity to it is not gated by a distribution mechanism. But second screen or VR or AR are just toolkits, right? They're things like you know, if you're making a movie and you say, my God, this really needs this to make the movie work, then you should do it. Too often I see people taking technology and going, we need to use the Twitter. Why? Because kids do it. Okay. That's not a reason to do something, right? Second screen makes a lot of sense if it's good for what you're trying to achieve. I think that, that's the key. And then to your second point, and you were talking about, the alternate distribution paths are now the distribution paths. It's like finding best distribution for what you've got based on who you're trying to reach.
Exactly. There are pockets of financing. My background is independent film financing, soft monies, tax shelter deals. And what's interesting, and Michael referenced this, is that now to sell a movie by territory, the theatrical window is pretty much gone. It's very limited. So the prices we would have gotten in the past for an all-right sale by territory was diminished by quite a bit. But now what's interesting is that to sell the VR rights to that movie and these international countries is now bringing more value to these sales. So the audiences are pretty savvy. I mean, they're in some senses ahead of us, and I think it's up to us as producers and filmmakers is to be current, to do our homework, to figure out, as Larry said, who is that audience? For a historical miniseries about the first woman to run for president in 1892, I'm not thinking, oh, I've got to force this into a VR component. That's not the show. But I am thinking about Vanessa Kirby in the lead, who just came off of The Crown. I am thinking about an African-American female director who just won honors at the Kennedy Center, who needs that shot. And this may be that shot for her. That's how I'm going to sell that particular product. So I think it's really doing your homework and really, who is the audience that I want to watch this primarily? And then you hope through word of mouth, right, that your audience grows.
I think I'm going to scrub my immersive My Dinner with Andre experience that I was going to have. I don't know if that's going to play. No. Got some foreign funding. I think it could work. Okay.
Other questions out there? I was going to say the lady in white, but you're both in white. How about the lady in the white on my right? Yeah, you. Sorry. Yeah. There.
Hi, so my name is Julia. I'm a composer. I also have a startup based in Europe that deals with audio solution and higher order ambisonics.
Cool.
And my question to you guys who did some work in VR is, what solutions did you use for your audio, particularly for the underscore? I would prefer you if you went technical into it. I know it's a lot of questions, so you don't have to.
And 90% of this audience would go, what?
Now, there's probably only one guy.
So, You want to answer?
Yeah, the exciting thing for me about sound in VR is the idea of being able to focus exactly where specifically the sound is coming from, spatialized sound, which makes it feel so real. In terms of music, I think we do it the same way we do a score. At least that's how we did it. But the really cool thing is to be able to precisely put the sounds in the actors' places wherever they are.
For Ambisonics, I've worked with a variety of things, everywhere from the Dolbys to, I haven't worked with Fraunhofer's solution yet. It really kind of depends on the team and the design that we're looking for. Like a lot of Ambisonics are out there. It'll depend on sometimes the post team that's looking at it. Capture is super important. I think as with all conversations around these kind of cool new medias, is sometimes sound gets forgotten as important and necessary and to think about, especially in an immersive environment where sound can really be a key player. And that, don't underestimate hiring a good sound guy. That's all I gotta say. Sound person. Oh, see, I was, call me out. Keep me honest, sister. You can get more geeky because I've dealt with a lot of different platforms, but like I said, I feel sorry for the rest of the audience since you and I dive into that rat hole of sound. All right, I'm going to go center row.
There's a guy over there, right in the back.
Guy, and are you talking about that guy in the hat?
Yeah.
Guy in the hat, as opposed to the woman in the hat right next to him.
Yo, what's happening, man? My name is Dr. Safida. I'm a culinary climate action activist, b-boy, producer. Speaking here on Thursday, I actually make music with vegetables. I grow food and actually connect with the copper wire and what's happening.
Cool.
My question is,
Wow.
talking about VR and culinary climate action, have you ever thought about making something to address climate change or even animal cruelty or something like that? I feel like in hip-hop, we see that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but I feel like a lot of youth are disconnected between what it means to be in touch with the environment and a lot of ideas of sustainability. So I feel like film would be a really impactful way. I'm featuring this short film called From Games to Guardians right now, and it's definitely around connecting youth to like inner city culture, like urban farming. So I'm thinking like there was something like literally how to grow food, maybe some like eating recipes that you can do like through VR. That might be a good way to connect. But what would you do when in your own form of like touching on sustainability or climate crisis?
Sure, and might I say I'm just fascinated about all those words that you put together, like, wow, what you do with vegetables? Dude, that's awesome.
It's called Records, man. Check, I got a TED Talk on it.
I just want to stop and go talk to him.
Same.
Well, there's about animal cruelty. There was a wonderful VR project I saw at Sundance that where they have a pig coming down to be slaughtered, and he sees his mate who's just been slaughtered, and he tries to back up, and that was so powerful. So it moved so many people. A lot of people became vegans after that. They saw that. It was shocking, the empathy that you had for that pig. So VR, because it's so real and you're there, can really do that. And in terms of teaching how to cook, I think it's a great idea.
I have a slightly different point of view on this. We are on this board together that you just mentioned, but I think I'm very interested in anti-poaching, and I think if we all said to each other, "Oh, let's go see a great anti-poaching movie that's going to show that pig," a lot of people, we'd all go, "Yeah, we got to go see it."
No.
And then we kind of wouldn't really go see it because it's going to be so sad. Yeah. I mean, I was in Beverly Hills at Il Pastel the other day at lunch, and we heard someone screaming in the street, and everyone thought it was a dog, and everyone got up and ran into the street, and it turned out to be a guy, and everyone went, "Ah!" and went back to, no one cared. So I think if you watch a movie, and I've been trying to find one, so if anyone has one, tell me, if you fall in love with an animal, if you make people love animals or love the environment, then they will want to save it. If you guilt them into seeing something, everyone will say they're going to go, but they won't go.
I'd also like to add, just because I agree with you completely. As a storyteller, I find like if the story is sort of about teaching somebody or doing something like that, you can often turn people off. I had nothing to do with the creation of Modern Family, so I feel very comfortable singing its praises on this. I think one of the very brilliant things, and the reason Modern Family did so well, surprisingly, in red states, was we played Mitch and Cam as a gay couple, not as a gay couple, but as new parents. The fact that they were gay, because I've been on a lot of shows, especially in the 90s, where it was the issue of the week, and somebody was coming out and they were gay, and we all learned a valuable lesson about it. But I thought the brilliance of what they did in that, and I think the brilliance of a lot of art that changes people's minds, is it's just a component of the reality. You're still telling stories about people you know, in places you know, and I think creators have a real responsibility to put that up as a backdrop of actual socially relevant things. Let's take it for granted that it's fact that we're killing the planet. And then tell a story over that. Not a story about killing the planet, but the fact that that is something that's going on in the background. That message gets through so much more than stop using plastic straws. But a character who just isn't using a plastic straw, and you have or is recycling in the middle of something, and you just sort of take it for granted that's part of their day, that message just seeps in so much harder. I think that's how the world changes.
I do, yeah, and I just want to add the group that Larry and I are on. One of our groups that we fund, they have started the first all-female border patrol. And the BBC heard about this, and because these women have such interesting stories, one woman for the first time earned her own money and was able to get her kids all into schools, and they could actually have a meal every day. So by following each woman's story, it's not the part of the goriness of seeing these animals, slaughtered, but to your suggestion, I think doing a VR experience with these women, going out in the truck and going out on a potential raid, I think would be kick-ass and really exciting.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that, and I'm going to discuss that actually with the BBC.
One of the ideas I was thinking is instead of just, focusing on the death, like maybe having like a workshop on how to build tower gardens, or like some kind of like interactive growing workshop where like you can like learn how to grow food. Maybe there's a compassionate animal class, like teaching kids when they're young, or how to work with the deaf.
No, we are doing that. We actually have schools here locally that we are going in and doing environmental education and conservation. So you're absolutely right, and I thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I think I think focusing on the mission and then thinking of your audience, it goes back to sort of the mantra we've had, and what's the best way to reach that audience. Look, I love the VR experience. It's been used very effectively for awareness campaigns, right? I call it purpose-driven. The thing is, these boxes on your face are hot and sweaty, and do we want to be entertained that way? Not always. But boy, when you can say, this is going to change your life, I'm going to educate you, I'm going to give you some information, people will stop and take a moment and do it. And it can be a very powerful, immersive thing. But you also have to think about who you're trying to reach, what do they have? Maybe this is the lowest common denominator, and it's video on this, or what is it, that thing you're trying to do and who you're trying to reach? Because too often, like I said, people will grab technology and try to apply it to a problem as opposed to have a problem and figure out the best way to solve it. The nice lady in the black in the front, right there. Yeah.
So I'm going to read this.
Oh dear.
My name's Amanda Moon. I just got into the entertainment industry recently. But I have a question for you folks up there. You talked about micro-targeting earlier. If your objective is to reach audiences outside of your own, how do you market it? So for myself, my focus is on LGBTQ projects. And you just talked about Mr. Zucker.
Yeah.
That in Modern Family, it helped normalize the queer community. So if my intent is to normalize the queer community and mass audiences, how is this micro-targeting effective for my projects?
Well, you said two sort of things. So are you trying to normalize it for already an LGBT audience or for another audience? So the question is, I think we should all ask ourselves, I have this phenomenal business partner named Jimmy Einer, and he always says, we don't work for our staff doesn't work for us, it's all the audience. We all work for the audience. So who's the audience you want to reach?
For the queer community to have representation, obviously, but also for the society outside of our community, often in the streets.
You want to bridge the gap.
Right, but so, just to answer your question specifically, so micro-targeting is micro-targeting. It means if you use it, and it's not for everybody, we want to reach X. So on Black Belt TV, our martial arts network, we're looking for people who like martial arts fights and movies. It's really simple. That's what we want. And if you don't, chances are you're not going to pay to subscribe to this every month. So we have a specific targeted audience. The question is, do you know your targeted audience? Do you know the demographics of the audience you most want to reach? And as soon as you figure that out, how to get to them, that technology is relatively, it's coming online really fast. It's not that ubiquitous yet, but it's coming. The hard question is, who's your audience? For all of us, that's a really hard thing. If you can figure out who your audience is, you can find them.
I think as Danny pointed out, if you lean into something saying, hey, crowd, I'm going to educate you about this, and it goes to cause-related things, is I want to show you pigs being slaughtered so you decide not to eat pigs, you might get some resistance, right? So the question is can you tell a story that people are watching because it's a great story, and then there's underlying pieces to it, and you have to think about that. Again, the targeting is that if you wanted to reach an audience with a specific thing, and you're like, you can find those audiences out there. The thing is marketing the need for marketing hasn't gone away. The need for finding the audience hasn't gone away. It's now distribution's no longer the problem. Everyone can distribute something in this entire planet. That is not an issue. Getting paid for it and finding the audience for it, those are still problems.
What I often find, especially with queer projects, is that marketing towards those communities when in reality it'll say I have a sci-fi show and I want it to be a sci-fi show, but if there's queer aspects related to that show, then it's being marketed as an LGBT versus my sci-fi show. So it's this weird phenomenon that goes on that my target audience is towards sci-fi audience because of the LGBTQ aspect. If people are against that community, then they're outright just watching content. Or at least there's a percentage of those people. They've learned that there's a queer character they can't watch.
I mean, my gay daughter, and she was I remember the show that was really meaningful to her growing up, she's 20 now, but was the cartoon Steven Universe. I don't know if you know, I would watch that one, but because there was they Trojan horsed basically gay characters in there, and it spoke to them, and I do think and that also had a sci-fi element to it, and I don't know, it's unfortunate that stuff happens. I hate that people are sort of put off, and this is considered, this is a black movie now, or this is a gay movie, but I don't know, sometimes it's just finding those stories that maybe are more universal, and then you put that stuff in there.
And then I produced a movie called K11, which is about the tranny section where they put the transgenders in Men's Central Jail. And the director purposely cast straight actors. We cast the top Latino actress, and who was stunning and straight, and she was so committed to playing a transgender. Once she met some of these transgenders, these women that are in and out, because basically it's safer for them in Men's Central than it is on the street. And once this actress interacted with them, and then the actor who was a music producer that was framed by his partner and arrested and thrown into this sector just to scare the you-know-what out of him. Right? Again, straight actor, big series actor. And I think it helped having the two of them talk about their research and what it meant to them to meet these incredible people, a lot of them petty crimes, but they kept wanting to get arrested because at least inside Men's Central, they knew they were going to get a meal and they knew they were going to stay alive. So that's how we attacked that project. The mayor did come, we did improve the conditions at Men's Central, so we did take some steps forward in that cause. But I think that's how we did it. We found a story, a way in, and we found actors that were willing to roll up their sleeves and really learn about this world and do the interviews and do the press.
Thank you. I, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, have to start bringing this panel to a close. Now, I never am able to predict how panels are going to go, and today was no exception, and where we will take this windy, twisty path. I do thank you for speaking out, because again, I think very important issue you raised.
I'd just like to say I've been 20 years in the business. You know, I've heard the Rolling Stones, UB40. I've co-produced them. I was one of the first women fighting for equal pay. I don't see myself insubordinate to any of you, but I do have absolutely very strong stories where studio executives, men, who do not let women in the door. And I am speaking from a position of experience with very solid credits.
Totally.
Thank you. Thank you for saying. But I do have to bring it to a close. Some of the panelists, I think, will be able to stick around. Thank you for attending. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming out of the crowd and joining.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
No, really cool.